This episode is brought to you by Levitt Pavilion. If you somehow haven't made it to a show at Levitt, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's my favorite place to watch live music outside in Denver, bar none. And it's the spot for free, all-ages concerts in beautiful Ruby Hill Park, which is just 10 minutes from downtown. The next free show is Heartless Bastards on August 4th, but there's a ton of great acts coming through. Like on August 10th, Levitt is hosting the All My Relations Celebration, which is a festival showcasing indigenous art from different tribes and diverse genres. You can see Levitt Pavilion's whole summer lineup and get your tickets at levittdenver.org. That's Levitt Denver.org. Today on CityCast Denver, downtown is back, at least according to some new traffic data, but there's a lot more to the story than just numbers. Me and producer Paul Caroli are talking about who's going back downtown, why, and all the other local stories that matter this week. Today is Tuesday, August 1st. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hi, Paul.
Happy Colorado Day, Bree.
Oh, it's Colorado Day?
It sure is.
I feel like I'm always caught off guard by this, and I actually don't know what it means.
Yeah, well, there's like 6 of them. There's like 303 Day. There's like,
right.
You know.
Is this
maybe
like...
there's only 2.
Yeah, I was like, a bunch too. Is this like a founder... it's founding day?
Yeah, it's the August 1st marks the 147-year anniversary of Colorado becoming a state.
I recently came across this because Mamie Eisenhower came to Denver for the christening of her Eisenhower Park. It's not named after President Eisenhower. It's named
really?
after, yeah, when I was doing a little research on U
wow.
Hills. She came here for Colorado Day for the christening of Mamie D. Eisenhower Park.
I love that.
So just so you know, folks in U Hills, your park is named after the First Lady.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's a little fact for you on Colorado Day.
Well, here we are on the Tuesday show. As always, we're going to start with a vibe check because this is Colorado and vibes are literally the most important thing, period.
In the most Colorado experience I had in a while, I was down at UMS with my friends and we were like figuring out when we were going to, I don't know, we were making a plan and I was like, how many of us drove? Oh, you know, there were 5 of us standing there and 4 of us had cars.
Cool.
Which is what I call the Colorado carpool. 5 people, 4 cars. But yeah, but it's really, I want to talk about, when I talk about vibes today, I want to talk about cars because over the weekend and late last week, our friend John Moore, longtime reporter,
arts critic
reporter. He's with the Denver Gazette now.
Yep.
He posted a picture on Instagram of the casino building, which is one of the main buildings at Lakeside, with like a giant chunk taken out of it where a car had smashed into it. And I was just like, you know what Lakeside needs? Definitely not to have any more infrastructure damage.
Yeah, not that.
And I thought, how do you drive off of the road, off of, is it Sheridan? It's on Sheridan and into this. I mean, you have to kind of go a ways to hit it.
I saw the picture you shared. They took quite a gash out of the corner of this building.
Yeah. And it really bummed me out. And then...
must have been an electric car.
Nobody heard it coming. That's what happened. And then over the weekend, when I was at UMS, I was standing in a venue. It was broad day. I think it was broad daylight. Actually, I don't know when it happened. Gosh, that's what a blur UMS is for people, and I don't even drink. But we heard like a boom. It was like almost like a sonic boom, and I was like, "What was that?" And we run out on the street, and someone had turned onto Broadway at the intersection where Snooze and the Punch Bowl is, and hit the street light. Just like smacked really hard into it, and it had me thinking about 2018 when 3 different cars ran into the Hornet over the course of the year. And I'm just like, what's going on? How do you run into a bill or like,
I've never been close to doing that in my car. I have to say it's never, I mean, maybe, are you swerving out of the way of something? Are you...
Honestly, I think, but like the speed of impact had to be
drugs or alcohol.
Right. That was my first question, but I watched the lady like get out and walk and have a seat and start talking to somebody. So I assumed that maybe it wasn't that. But it just seemed like the speed at which she hit it seemed really fast for being at an intersection in a heavily pedestrian. I mean, it's UMS. There are people wandering through Broadway all day for like 3 days straight. So I don't know. It also just had me thinking about how I've had so many conversations lately, anecdotally, with random friends and family about how dangerous it is to be on the road, not only as a pedestrian, but as a driver in Denver right now. It feels like people are speeding. The aggression, sort of like the road rage is really, really high. And I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, my friend Sarah, who was just like, like sometimes you get off the road because you're worried that someone's like flipping you off and you don't even know what's going on. And I just don't know if there's data to back this up, but like, is road rage getting worse? And are people,
I have no idea.
Are people speeding more? Like, it feels like
you've noticed both, you think?
Absolutely. Like you'll just be I'll be going the speed limit on Alameda, which can be around like, I think it's like 35 or 40. I'm usually going under 40 and someone will ride up on me and whip around me like, I can't believe you're going slow. And I'm like, this is not the highway. So I don't know. I'm hoping some data comes out that we can have a conversation about, but I've been thinking about
that would be.
I don't know either, but like, is road rage on the rise?
Maybe.
Oh, and speeding tickets, are they giving them? I don't know.
So the vibe is, as usual, pandemonium on our streets.
Kinda. Yeah.
Cars running into things.
I saw motorcycles racing down Broadway during a pedestrian-oriented festival. Just really bummed me out. I wish everybody would slow down.
Feel bad for Lakeside.
Oh, and then Lakeside.
Cyclone's still closed as far as I know. For like going on a year. That's their best ride. That big old wooden roller coaster. I love it.
It's the draw.
Would love to be going back and riding that.
Yeah, I saw, and sadly, some of the comments on John's post about that crash were like, "Oh, Rhoda, the owner of Lakeside's never going to fix it. She doesn't care." And I don't think that it's not that she doesn't care. It seems like a heavy load, and I wonder what's going on with Lakeside.
Yeah, we should try to figure that out.
We should. Okay, Paul, our first story. Our first big news-ish story is that traffic has bounced back to pre-pandemic levels to downtown. Like downtown traffic, and it is not commuters. It's not workers.
Wait. We have to settle on that first point for a second, because that's a really big deal. That's like the thing that people downtown civic leaders have been talking about and worrying about and hand-wringing about for years, since 2020. No one's coming back. The commuters are all working remote. No one's coming back. All these businesses are suffering. Look at all this crime that's happening. Downtown is dead. Everyone's leaving. It's never going to what are you going to do, And so this data that comes to us courtesy of the Denver Business Journal by way of a Washington-based traffic analysis firm called INRX has shown that Denver's traffic has bounced back.
You just glossed over the fact that this is a Kirkland, Washington-based group. Do you know what Kirkland is?
No, what is that?
That's the Costco brand. Did you know Kirkland was a place?
No.
Well, for all my fellow Costco lovers, your Kirkland signature is a place.
I almost left out the most important detail.
I know. So, okay. Anyway, I'm sorry to digress.
No, that's fine.
I think this is interesting though, because we had a reader or listener last week point this out. She said, "Hey, you guys are like mischaracterizing downtown," and I pushed back a little bit because she identified as a worker who now works from home, and it's like almost like those are two different things happening. Maybe. The conversation about office workers and empty offices versus downtown being bustling and busy.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of it. That's what you were alluding to, was this other new development, which is traffic is different. Traffic patterns are different because there are still a lot of those remote workers who are staying at home or staying in their suburb, or maybe they got a co-working space in the suburb now. But people are coming downtown instead on nights and weekends. That's what the transportation analyst who led the study, his name's Bob Pishui, perhaps. He says, what that tells me is that a lot of people are coming into downtown for reasons other than the office. I think they're coming down for like restaurants, for like Coors Field, sports. They're coming down for concerts, Taylor Swift concerts.
Sure.
All sorts of things.
Sure.
And this particularly interesting thing from the same person who led the study, he says that this is happening more in downtown than in other cities across the country.
In downtown Denver?
In downtown Denver. It's happening in other cities where more people are coming down on nights and weekends than during rush hour times for commuters. But Denver has more of a draw downtown.
Interesting.
Isn't that fascinating? I think we always give Denver such a hard time, downtown especially, such a hard time. But this data is telling us that actually Denver is doing pretty good when it comes to maintaining a lively, friendly atmosphere on nights and weekends. And it's drawing people down.
So Courtney Garrett, head of the Downtown Denver Partnership, said something to this effect. Denver and Colorado also have a culture of going out and prioritizing experiential pursuits more than other areas do.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you buy that?
No.
Why not?
Why would San Francisco and New York not have exceedingly much more experiential?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, with the culture, we like experiences more. I have not ever heard anything like that.
I haven't either. And also, I don't go downtown to experience Denver. But maybe you're right. Ball Arena, sure. Last year, I went to a bunch of Nuggets games. Saw Pitbull, of course, as one is to do every time he's here. But then, of course, we went but during all those times, we also went to Ryan House for dinner or
get a meal, get a drink.
Yeah. So I could see what she's saying. I guess the experiential part I'm always suspicious of, because Denver's not more prone to going out and experiencing the city than anywhere else, right? But the data shows it is.
I guess it is.
Fascinating stuff. Also, though, I'm curious. One more thing, Paul, though, is the reality. I'm still stuck on this reality. We work downtown once a week, and there is nary a soul in our entire building that we interact with other than the security guard.
Well, I mean, that's where the data does back that up. Our anecdotal experience where people are not still working downtown at the same levels as they were. And that seems like a bigger issue. Although I've heard from some people that their bosses are trying to get them to go back down to the office.
Which just
few different companies.
My eye roll is endless on that.
Yeah, you just think it's not going to happen?
I just think it's unreasonable. I think that folks realized once we were out of for 9-to-5ers, I would say, for folks that have the luxury of not going into a workplace, because if you do a service job or a physical labor job, you don't get that choice. But for folks that have these kinds of jobs, we realized how much time we were spending commuting, how much time we were spending prepping to go to work, lunch, getting your gym bag together, organizing your childcare around it. And doctor's appointments, all these things are so much easier when you're at home. Right. I just find it unrealistic. And I also find it to be this weird power dynamic where bosses are we want you to come in, but they've been enjoying all these things for years. For sure. Right.
For sure. Well, I personally, I feel like that's an ongoing discussion. And there's a big experiment happening right now. This is a report I saw in Business Den this morning. Xcel Energy is sending 1,300 employees based in Denver to their Denver office. They lease almost 300,000 square feet of space downtown. And so they're actually telling people for the first time, hey, it's time to go back. And so they're not sure how it's going to work. Apparently their leases are up soon, so they might not renew. I don't know. I'll be watching that one. I think it could be a good test.
I'm sorry. Are they dumb? Do they not think that we don't see what they're doing?
What do you mean?
I spent all this money on this office. Somebody better use it.
Well, maybe they see there's other benefits.
I don't know. I think that this is another symptom of a real estate problem that we have in this country, which is real estate costs too much money and they feel like they're not getting their money's worth. Think about, I've talked about this before. The office next to us at 5280 looks like a still life. There was an actual man in there the other day and it startled me. I've never seen a human in that office. And I was like, oh my God, there's a person in there because it's just so rare. And I don't know. This feels like a power struggle for bosses. I don't love it.
A power struggle is a perfect word for it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, call us in. Let us know what you think about downtown right now. What's got you getting out? Leave us a voicemail at the downtown is back?
Question mark?
Hotline 720-500-5418. Again, that is 720-500-5418. It's time for a quick break. We'll be back with more.
This episode is brought to you by the American Museum of Western Art. This Wednesday, August 2nd, from 3 to 4 p.m., the American Museum of Western Art will host Pioneer Music of the Mountain West, presented by Swallow Hill. Waves of explorers and settlers all contributed to the Mountain West's musical heritage, including various acoustic and folk traditions. During this performance, musicians will share songs of mountain men, ranchers, miners, and farmers, and you'll even get a chance to play period-relevant instruments. Tickets are just $10 and can be purchased online at anschutzcollection.org or at the door. Okay, we're back. Now it's time for us to hear from you. What do you have to say? We always love hearing from our listeners. You guys are great. You share perspectives with us that we don't have, and I think that's so important. But last week, I mentioned my rec center. I love the one I've been going to, Ashland on the north side. I've been going there for swimming lessons with my son. The experience is phenomenal, and it just made me think about my favorite rec centers, right? I grew up going to Cook Park in your neighborhood, Paul. 20th Street is forever where my heart is. I love the staff there, but you all had rec centers you loved as well. So let's hear from our listeners about their favorite rec centers.
Hello, Bree and Paul. I just listened to your episode on the Denver rec centers, and I got to tell you, I went to the House of Pain for boxing myself. I don't know if they still call the 20th Street Rec Center that or not. But that was a lovely place. Went all around the Denver rec centers. Lalma Rec Center was one of our favorites, and Barnum was one of our favorite rec centers. Love the park there, and they have a fun little bike track for kids who like doing the BMX type biking. So that would be my recommendation.
Oh, this one warmed my heart because he mentions like almost all my favorite rec centers. He mentioned 20th Street. So it has been known for over 80 years as a space for boxers. It has a boxing ring. It used to be known, as he said, as the House of Pain. A lot of boxing.
I've never heard that.
It was just,
I used to go there a lot, and I've never heard that.
They took the signs down, but it was like, I
really?
would say probably it was up until the early 2000s, probably maybe in the mid 2000s that it was House of Pain.
Fun.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then I think he mentioned the Trestle Bike Skills course at Barnum, which is this bike track of like dirt bike hills that runs right along 6th Avenue. It's super cool. So you're like, you can ride your dirt, like you can do BMX riding there and you're watching the highway. Like it's like right next to it. It's crazy. And La Alma also, a very small but mighty rec center in the La Alma Lincoln Park neighborhood. So
Nice. Let's hear another one.
Hey, my name is Nate from Baker, and I just wanted to give a shout out to my favorite rec center, which is the La Familia Rec Center. All those employees that make the rec center what it is deserve praise. They're all wonderful. Make it a fun and clean environment. Thanks. Bye.
I do not know the La Familia Rec Center. Where is that?
It's another small rec center in like La Alma Lincoln Park. It's kind of on the it's La Alma is in La Alma, the park itself. And then if you go a little bit south, I think almost to 6th, it's like a little bit deeper into the neighborhood that direction. And it's also just another very small, but it has an indoor pool.
Neat.
It's just one of those hyper local ones. And I love that he brought up the staff, because I have to say that's one of my favorite parts about all of the rec centers I've been going to my whole life here is the staff is always really nice. It's just it's a cool spot. It makes you feel welcome.
All right, we got one last voicemail.
Okay.
Hello, this is Monica from the Lowry area. Bree, I listened to a recent episode and love that you gave a shout out to the Parks and Rec staff for swim classes because, yeah, we have also ventured into the Treacherous Lottery and we love the staff in the swim classes. That said, this message is actually for Paul Caroli. So in a recent chit chat about Avery, as their 30th anniversary is one of the events to do this weekend, Paul said, yeah, I would totally pick up a 6-pack of Avery at my local grocery store. And I just want to give a shout out to the local liquor stores because, as you know, there's some recent changes in policy where grocery stores can now have booze, but that's not so great for the local liquor stores because they are not allowed to have more than one location that has sales, whereas the grocery stores are. So, Paul, be sure to pick up a 6-pack of Avery at your local liquor store.
I just agree with this for multiple reasons. One, I grew up going to the liquor store by your house, Paul.
Okay.
It was called Virginia Village. I don't know if it's still there. And it was nice to have to me, it was like cool to have a local liquor store that was not, I don't know, it's another independently owned business to me. And two, I hate that my grocery store is now like a quarter full of like booze that no one is shopping. There are like 3 aisles of wine. Nary a person ever in that aisle, and it's where the bread used to be. So could I just have the bread back and then we could just all go back to going to locally owned liquor stores?
Well, I think if no one's shopping for your alcohol at your store, they're going to go back to bread soon enough. I wouldn't be worried about that.
What did you think about this comment, Paul? It was directed at you.
I loved it. I was so excited when this popped up because I had an experience at my grocery store this weekend, and they have already shifted the balance of the beer in the fridges this summer. So I don't know. When I heard this, I was thinking about our beverages conversation from a few weeks ago. Like, what are people drinking this summer? And the craft beer section at King Soopers has gotten so small. There's so much more space taken up by hard seltzers, like White Claw. And like the selection for those craft beers that I like is it's getting smaller and smaller. Like, I don't know if they're going to have Avery forever. I might end up going back to the local liquor store more and more for more selection.
I mean, I hate to get hyper local here with you, Paul, but do you go to the King Soopers on Leedsdale?
Monaco and Leedsdale.
Yeah, there's a liquor store next to it.
There used to be. It went out of business because of this law. And the last few laws that all kind of accelerated this same issue.
Oh, bummer.
Meh.
Well, maybe it brings them back.
Maybe.
I know this sounds crazy to me to be arguing for independently owned liquor stores as a person that doesn't drink, but I would like to have less of it in my grocery store. And if you want to go buy it, go to an independently owned. That seems like a win.
It makes more sense.
To me, it's a win-win. I understand the accessibility, like, I could just walk in and grab a 6-pack or whatever. But like I said, there's too much of it and no one's shopping it. So maybe just a more curated selection.
They'll figure it out.
That sells.
They'll adjust to demand wherever the demand is, I think.
I don't know. I love this comment, though. Thank you for bringing it back up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Monica. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Monica.
We got one last thing before we go today. Every Tuesday, we like to end the show on a question for you all to think about this week. So this is a story that you flagged last week, Bree. Apparently, there's a new piece of public art at the airport.
Yeah.
It's a piece called Welcome to My Office by Seward Johnson. And it is a businessman sort of lounging, reading a paper. And anyway.
And his briefcase is open.
A very airport type archetype, I guess.
It's an airport archetype, and it also seems to just flow seamlessly right into the collection of weird art at DIA.
Yeah.
It fit to me. I saw this and I was like, yeah, of course that's at the airport.
I also kind of like it, but I will say I don't like the name. Welcome to My Office with a lounging guy. Just a little bit like, I don't know. A little
too
creepy.
Schmucky.
A little schmucky, yeah. Anyway, but also Lucifer, not its official name. So here's my question. What should we call this guy? This bronze businessman?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Bronzifer?
No,
Bronston?
He's Mr. Bronston.
Mr. Bronston?
Also, I would love to know if you have more information out there about where this piece came from, because a very nice Twitter follower of mine, and I wish I could remember your name, said that you recognized this piece from being on the street somewhere in a public space in Greeley. So if it lived somewhere else before, I would love to know more about it. But yeah, if you have a name for Welcome to My Office.
Your best alternate name for the lounging businessman at DIA. Call in at 720-500-5418. Again, that number is 720-500-5418.
Well, thanks for joining me, Paul.
My pleasure, Bree.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell artist Seward Johnson about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, by texting Denver to 66866. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.